Hey guys, you've probably noticed that Mr. H is not here today. I will be back on Tuesday, but there's something that needed to be taken care of today. We will be back on Tuesday with the class. Don't worry as well. We will be continuing with the water cycle quiz that we had planned for today. We'll go through it all so you'll know exactly what it is to do. Before you freak out as well, in the lower right-hand corner, you probably see that you do have another quiz. Your quiz will be on Thursday of this week. And the quiz is going to be talking about the Grand Canyon's rock strata, and we'll talk more about that at the end of this video and as well during the next class period. So let's see. For right now, you do need 2 documents pulled up, and you have 3 do now questions to complete. At this point, me and the sub, or the sub, I guess, because they're there, will pause the video for about 5 minutes for you to complete the do now, and after that, we'll come back and go through those answers. So pausing the video, we'll see you in a minute. Okay, so looking at the answers to the do now. So question number 1, transpiration is when gaseous water is released from plants. Number 2, in order for rocks to be turned into sediment, erosion and then cementation has to happen. Or just erosion, I guess, because we're going just to sediment. And number 3, what is one process that shapes Earth's surface? That happens very quickly. There are loads of them you could talk about, but maybe earthquakes would be one example for that. Again, I'll talk about the home learning once we get started. 2 documents. You need both your water cycle summative, which will be posted in Google Classroom, and the Grand Canyon strata to be able to study a little bit once this quiz is done. Anyway, as far as today goes, we don't have any know-its or vocab. Starting off as always, 3 something cools. This is a house that was 3D printed. Basically, they took a giant 3D printer to the job site. They printed all of the walls out of a type of plastic material, and they managed to put the roof on and get it all built with windows and electricity, everything. The whole process took 24 hours to print it all and then to put the roof on. It all took 24 hours. So that's amazingly fast to try to get an entire house built. That's super fast. So kind of cool that they could do that. I think we skipped over one here. There we go. This one right here is something called a chimera. A chimera is any organism that it shows 2 different features. So the way it's formed is as an embryo within the mother, as it's developing into a baby. There are 2 different embryos with different characteristics that get fused together into one. And what ends up happening is that both of these characteristics, at least the physical characteristics, both of them get expressed. And it's not just for cats, but it does happen in quite a few other organisms as well. It's kind of cool. And it's not all that uncommon. So you could check that out. Let's see, third something cool. This is a drone that some scientists have created. And it's kind of interesting because they programmed this drone to be unmanned. So nothing is controlling it. The drone flies around and it uses targeting software and a couple of other complicated programs to search for aluminum pop cans. So as it's flying around, it'll just be looking for pop cans. If it finds one, it'll deploy this extendable arm from the bottom of the drone, and the arm will pick up the pop can and it'll fly to the nearest trash bin, which is kind of crazy. But it's kind of also cool. Better still if people just didn't throw pop cans or any trash on the ground, but it is still pretty cool that they've been able to develop a robot that was capable of doing that. Anyway, let's talk very quickly about the quiz that we have the next class period. It will be on rock strata, just like we've been practicing with the Grand Canyon example. So the quiz itself is going to have this exact same question, but the rock strata that I give you is going to be from a different section. of the Grand Canyon, so it won't have the same fossils necessarily as it does in this picture here. But the question will all be the same. You'll have to tell me the history of the area based on what you see happening within that rock strata and looking at the different fossils. So that's what it is that we're going to be doing for the next quiz. If you get done with the water cycle and Earth's changing features quiz in just a moment, this is one thing that you can study for. You can look around. If there's somebody else who's also done, maybe take a look at each other's rock strata and figure out how you could have made your answers better. But the only way that that can happen is if you do it very quietly. If the substitute decides that people are being too loud for those that are still taking their quiz, she may have you just kind of move back to your own table and work silently. He or she. I guess I don't know who the substitute is. Anyway, so that's what the next quiz is going to be, and one of the things that you can do. So at this point, we're going to do the same thing we did with the Do Now. We'll give you 5 minutes to study. We'll pause the video, and after that, we'll come back and talk about the actual quiz that you're taking now. So pausing the video and see you in a second. All right, now, after you've hopefully had a little bit of time to look over everything, this is a page that I'll put back up on the end, or at the end. I'll actually post it in Google Classroom as well, just to give you a reminder. I don't believe there is a reflection for this one, so I apologize that that's up there. But you can read, draw, work on home learning, nap. You can do some brain pop. Otherwise, at the very bottom there, you can see study. Again, studying rock strata to know that you understand how different rocks are laid down and what you can tell me about the rocks themselves. You can do that with a partner, but you have to do it quietly. Now, the quiz itself that we're taking right now for the water cycle quiz looks something like this. There are 2 questions. One is with the water cycle and the second one is with Earth's changing surfaces. For this first question, it's asking a scientist made a model of the water cycle using lab equipment, using a burner. The water was heated until it became a vapor, and the vapor changed back into a liquid in a cooling tube when it fell out of the end of the tube in small droplets. These droplets trickled down the ramp until it was all caught by a beaker at the bottom. Her setup is this below. It is a drawing, so if you double click on this image, you can zoom in if you can't quite see what's going on. And so there are a couple things that you have to do for this question. The first is, I want to know the vocab word that would be associated with each of these areas. So let's say you think A is transpiration. It's not, but let's say that it was transpiration. You could say transpiration, and then give me an explanation as to how you know that it is transpiration. The only one that's difficult, I think B is pretty clear. C hopefully should be clear. D, all of those should be clear. A, think about what powers this whole cycle. And so it's not necessarily a vocab word, but you could just put a single word that is what this burner represents. So the thing that drives the entire water cycle is what I'm looking for letter A. So give me the vocab word and a definition, sorry, not a definition, an explanation as to how you know that is the case. Finally, the second question down below, you're telling me 3 ways that the Earth's surface changes quickly and 3 ways that it changes slowly. But it also says describe. So don't just say giant iguanas change the Earth's surface. I need to know how that particular event, how it changes the Earth's surface. So you could say giant iguanas, they change the Earth's surface very rapidly because giant iguanas take huge chunks out of the Earth's crust because they like eating rocks. Something like that is more of the explanation that I need. So we have 3 fast and also 3 slow that we have to have. Again, that's the whole assessment. When you are done with it, you have the options of doing this. I will post that in Google Classroom. It's probably a really good idea to look over those rock strata and study it to see that you understand how all of those things are laid down. Other than that, I will see you on Tuesday.